Happy Easter weekend, folks, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for April 15, 2022. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. A good Friday edition of SmackDown from last night. Not exactly a great edition. Maybe not even a good edition of SmackDown. I thought this was a pretty missable show. With some solid matches. I like the Rhea Ripley Naomi match a lot. Some decent storyline progression. I enjoyed the main event. Overall, no Roman Reigns, not a great show. Not even with Roman Reigns would this have probably been a great show. But missing a guy like Roman Reigns in a show like this, when it's essentially his show, not a great sign for the future of the Blue brand. I talked about last week how the Blue brand received a bit of a resurgence of sorts with the returning Lacey Evans, Gunta, Ludwig Kaiser, and who was the other one? Raquel Rodriguez, of course, the former Raquel Gonzalez, all coming to Friday nights. They're a nice injection of new blood on the show, but we need more compelling storylines. If they're going to keep the brand split going, and at this point I'm not exactly confident that'll be the case. We had Rhea Ripley on the show, the Raw Tag Team Champions. They're obviously injecting a lot of Raw superstars on the show because Raw, or rather SmackDown, can't stand on its own. And I'm glad they're bringing in new people or bringing people back like Lacey and other people like that, as I mentioned. But SmackDown is still seriously struggling when it comes to creating compelling storylines and having just any real incentive for fans to tune in. I don't really have that right now with SmackDown, really just to see what's up next with Roman Reigns, and we did not have Roman Reigns on the show at all. There was zero follow-up to the angle that closed last week's show between Roman Reigns and Shinsuke Nakamura. We never really did find out why Shinsuke was out there. I don't know why Roman wasn't on the show this week, maybe he was busy. There was no excuse to not have Shinsuke Nakamura on the show. Even if they do that as a match on TV and it's not the WrestleMania Backlash match, and if that's the case, they're really fucked for that pay-per-view. That pay-per-view, this current point, does not have a WWE Universal Undisputed Championship match on the card. We have Cody and Seth. We have Charlotte and Ronda in an I Quit match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. We now have a unification match between RK Bro and the Usos, which should be a great match. As good of a match as that should be, it's just not enough to warrant people looking forward to that pay-per-view. The three matches we do have are great, but with only one world championship now, and you're not going to have that defended on your next show, unless Roman Reigns is hurt, and we just don't know it yet, and I fear that might be coming, to not even set up Roman's next challenger makes, to me, zero sense. So anyway, with this show, not a great show overall. I left like 3/4 of the way through. I did watch it live for once this week, and then at 9:30, I dipped to go watch Sonic 2. Alexis was busy earlier than that, so we couldn't go see that. I was going to skip SmackDown altogether, but I figured since I was around, we saw the movie at 10:15. Ended up being a pretty good flick. It was either that or Morbius, and I'll probably see Morbius at some point just to see it, but I don't know if I would pay full price for it. So it was probably for the better that we saw Sonic, but it was a decent flick. I enjoyed it for what it was. So anyway, starting off SmackDown on Friday, we had the Usos out there interrupting RK Bro. The Usos went to Raw on Monday. RK Bro only saw fit to, return the favor by coming to Friday Night SmackDown this week. So they go back and forth. Pretty standard segment, pretty standard exchange between the two teams here. The only thing really worth noting about the segment was the enthusiasm for Randy Orton in his promo. I mean, this guy you would think was fucking high as a kite out there, just got laid or something. I mean, this guy was extremely excited to be out there in front of this crowd in Worcester, Massachusetts. This guy was just ridiculously excited, way more excited than we have probably ever seen Orton before, or at least since he did that split in midair on SmackDown 11 years ago. I love babyface Orton right now. The guy is clearly on cloud nine. The crowds are killing it, or the crowds are eating it up. And I fear that the Usos, if they win at WrestleMania Backlash, I'm totally fine with that. If anything, they're my current pick to win, just so the bloodline can have all the gold right now. But if they don't, I fear the next step in RK Bro is WWE splitting them up. And we all know that's inevitable, and I'm fine with that match coming to fruition at some point. I'm looking forward to it. The thing is, though, is that with Orton and Riddle, they're still extremely popular. Fans are still really much digging the RK Bro act. So why break them up at this point? They're still popular, still getting great reactions. Why not wait until SummerSlam season to do the split? I think there is a scenario where you can have them lose the Raw Tag Team titles only to continue to, remain aligned and maybe have some singles aspirations while remaining friends for the time being. A split will take place, and that's totally fine, because I actually do really want to see Riddle versus Randy. But I just don't want to see the split at this point, because I don't think we need to see the match at Hell in a Cell or even at Money in the Bank. I think SummerSlam would be a perfect time to pull the trigger on that program. But anyway, the interaction between the two teams in the opening segment led to Riddle and Jimmy Uso being made official for later on in the night, as we will get RK-Bro against the Usos for both tag team titles on the line. A tag team title unification match, our first one since, WrestleMania 25? On the pre-show, no less, between Carlito, Primo, Miz, and Morrison. They had a tag team title unification match, and they obviously created the SmackDown tag team titles a little while later, in 2016. So that's now official for WrestleMania Backlash. Our first match on the show is actually a pretty good one. Rhea Ripley going one-on-one with WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Naomi, as a bit of a preview before Naomi and Sasha defend the tag titles against Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan this Monday on Raw. Like I said, a great match here. I thought Naomi had a really good showing. Ripley looked great. And the babyface versus babyface dynamic did not really hurt this whatsoever. The crowd was into it. The action was good. They got plenty of time. It wasn't a 2 or 3 minute match, and we had plenty of those on the show. This was not one of them, and I appreciated that. And Ripley picked up the win as she should have. And it really is worth noting that Ripley, to my knowledge, has not really been beaten all that much, if at all, in the last 6 months or so. I know she was pinned in the Elimination Chamber match, back at Elimination Chamber in February to be eliminated by Bianca Belair, and in the Gauntlet match that same week as well on Raw, like the Raw right before that show. Other than that, though, she has not been beaten one-on-one in a very long time, if I remember correctly. She hasn't faced Becky. She hasn't really had a one-on-one match with Bianca yet in the main roster. She hasn't been beaten by anyone notable in a very long time. So the fact that they're protecting Rhea, I like. She's over. But they are going to turn her heel, as they probably should. I feel like she'll be a great fit for that Edge Damian Priest faction. And it's time for her and Liv to kind of go their separate ways. So they didn't tease any tension here, but I feel like that was done on purpose after they teased tension a week or two ago, because they want to make it more of a surprise when, after they lose the WWE Women's Tag Team title match on Monday, that they'll go their separate ways, and it'll be more of a surprise when Ripley turns on Liv. Maybe not that night, but soon after. I mean, I would love for it to happen that night so they can begin the build to Rhea and Liv at WrestleMania Backlash. I think that'd be awesome, personally. But good match here. Glad to see the women get some time, and I'm looking forward to that women's tag team that women's tag team title match on Monday on Raw. We had Madcap Moss's first promo officially as a babyface, being interviewed backstage by, I believe, Megan Morant. I don't think it was Caleb Braxton. But he talked about basically emancipating himself away from Happy Corbin, so to speak, last week on the show, breaking away, becoming a babyface, blah, blah, blah. So they are still calling him, unfortunately for now, Madcap Moss. He still has the bad joke gimmick. He still has, I don't think it's the same theme song. I might be wrong. If they did keep the song, he doesn't have the same intro. I remember the intro being incredibly bad when he came out for his match at Elimination Chamber against Drew a couple of months ago. Maybe it's the same song, they removed the intro, I don't know. But he still has the stupid suspenders. Listen, I said this last week. If this is going to work, and I'm not even saying Moss has zero upside. I'm not personally a fan of his. I've never really ever seen anything special in the guy. And just because we haven't seen a single memorable match that he's had, although the match with Drew at day one was pretty good, beyond that, I've never really seen anything out of the ordinary with Moss. But then again, there's a lot of people on the roster you could probably say that about, that are a lot better than they get credit for because they never really had the chance to showcase their skills. So it's not really a great indicator of like, oh, how far can this person go or how good are they actually, But still, I think it's worth giving a chance to, because SmackDown needs stars. We've been saying it every week for months now. SmackDown needs stars. So why the fuck not? Why not try to create a star to Moss? The issue is that he will be hindered by the dumb name, the dumb gimmick, and the dumb look. If they really want to make this work, they got to change A, B, and C, all of that shit. All of the above. Because the stupid suspenders, it's amazing to me that they thought that was a good idea in the first place. I mean, as a lackey, as a joke of a guy, pun intended, that works. But if it's really someone that they want us to take seriously, it's not going to work. He's hardly a threat. He beat Humberto here in a fine match. Honestly, I came away from this match, as decent as this was, I came away from this match feeling more bad for Los Lotharios, who were a lot better than this. I mean, put those guys in the tag team title mix or just get them more tag team practice or whatever, because those guys are great and deserve more of a spotlight than what they're getting right now. They're just being fed to Moss. Humberto lost here. Angel kind of yelled at him afterward, and now we're getting Moss and Angel next week on the show. Angel will probably lose that too. And if they break up Los Lotharios already, I don't know what to fucking say. I mean, they've been together for all of, 4, 5, 6 months? They've done absolutely nothing as a team. They beat the New Day maybe once, and that was it. They deserve a lot better than that. But yeah, this was fine. If they want to get the Moss thing over, they have to completely repackage the guy. I think people are willing to cheer him, which is fine, which is great, but they have to make him more of a threat by changing everything about his current gimmick, because it just doesn't work, brother. It doesn't work at all. Charlotte Flair was out in the ring next for an interview with not Kayla Braxton, not Megan Morant, but rather Drew Gulak, the latest addition, we were told, to the WWE broadcast team on SmackDown. Now, at first, this was incredibly random, first of all. But at first, though, I thought maybe they're pulling the Aiden English route, where one day Aiden English was just on commentary, on SmackDown or on 205 Live or whatever it was. And they said in the same press release, oh yeah, he'll still be an active in-ring member, and he wasn't. He never wrestled again after that, at least not for WWE. And that's not what this was, because they made it a point to acknowledge the fact that he was new to this, and he was excited to get going, and he wasn't overly great at the beginning, and he played his role well in the segment. Charlotte just took the time to talk shit about Ronda, and Ronda was conspicuous by her absence on this show. They probably intentionally left her off, because there really was no reason for her to be on the show every single week. Same with Charlotte, but they furthered their feud, Charlotte and Ronda did. Ronda wasn't there, but Charlotte furthered the feud of the promo, and she ended the segment by getting heat by attacking Drew Gulak. So this was fine. I'm curious to see where this leads, because, again, if Drew Gulak was indeed a permanent fixture of the broadcast team, and he very well might be, then it was weird how they gave him as much attention as they did on the show, and they had him get attacked. They don't do that with everybody, so I'm curious to see where this goes, if anywhere. It could just be their way of writing him off before they fire him next week. I mean, honestly, nothing surprises me, or at least very little anyway, surprises me in this company anymore. So we'll see where this goes. It was fine, and Drew as a broadcaster, hey, I guess it can't be much worse than sitting on the sidelines doing nothing for the last 6 months. So I guess it can't get much worse than that, so why the fuck not? We then had Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn in a rematch from last week. More of the same here. Drew just beat up Sami for a few minutes. Sami escaped through the crowd. Drew, for whatever reason, there was a fucking force field there because he didn't go after him. And Sami got counted out again. The exact same angle we got last week. To be fair, it was entertaining. It is entertaining to see Sami running away from Drew, because Sami plays his role remarkably well. Drew's great. So this was entertaining. I just wish they didn't do the exact same finish 2 fucking weeks in a row. Now, it is leading somewhere. They're doing a match next week, a lumberjack match between Sami and Drew. This is clearly a filler feud for Drew before hopefully he gets back on track and sets his sights on a world championship, or the world championship. I'm not even sure if they're officially unified at this point, but that's another discussion for another day. But yeah, they're having a lumberjack match next week on the show. I don't know, are they going to be in the UK next week? I forget. They might be filming next week's shows in the UK. Maybe both, maybe one. I don't remember, but I know they're doing that match next week, in addition to Moss against Angel. We heard from Lacey Evans again. She cut another really good promo, I thought, talking about her backstory and how her father came back for her, and the one that her and her mother ran away from. It was a really scary story, but all the trauma that she went through, and there's more to come from this, and I would hope that the end game is her persevering and getting over it and moving on from it and whatever, powering through. But I don't know, so far from what we've seen from Lacey, I've liked it. I think it works, and I think she works a lot better as a babyface given her actual backstory than what they were doing as the sassy Southern Belle. For as well as she plays that role, I think her as a babyface just makes more sense, and she'll get more over and get further with that character. If it's even a character, because that's her actual backstory. So I like that as well. We saw Raquel Rodriguez backstage at one point with Natalya. Oh my fucking God, and Shayna Baszler. The only upside to Natalya to me, going to NXT, and that's great for Cora Jade to work with her hero. I could not give a fuck about Natalya going to NXT. She is so fucking bland and boring, it's not even funny. And she's been around for a decade, and she's just so useless on this roster. I'm sure she's a great presence backstage. As an on-air character, if you take Natalya out of the picture, literally nothing will change. For all the women they've gotten rid of and that have gotten fired in the last decade, that have left, Natalya is still here. She's been here for 15 years at this point. I mean, she debuted on the main roster in 2008, the same month that I started watching WWE. That is how long she's been around for. And I could not care less about Natalya than I do right now. Yet she's on NXT, and she's apparently pulling double duty, and she's still on SmackDown. So Even worse than her being on NXT is the fact that she's still on SmackDown. Someone tried to tell me the other day, oh, at least just be happy she's not on SmackDown. You fucking moron, she's still on both brands. That's even worse. Don't try to tell me, oh, at least it's, blah, blah, blah. There's no positive. There is zero positive to Natalya being anywhere, but I don't want to say off the show, but I don't want to see her get fired. But her being on the show almost every week, to me, is just insufferable. She offers nothing. If Cora beats her, amazing. Who gives a fuck? Honestly, the Ziggler stuff was surprisingly good. Maybe this will be decent. I don't need to see Natalya anywhere. NXT, SmackDown, Raw, level up. To me, it doesn't matter. But she was backstage. My Natalya rant aside, she was backstage with Shayna, and they interacted with Raquel, and that was it. So Raquel's first match on the show will probably be against Natalya or Shayna. Whatever. If Raquel wins, more power to her. That's great, as she should. But Shayna just means nothing at this point, and Natalya is just Natalya. We also heard from Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser, the former Walter and Marcel Bartel, on a pre-tape promo. Didn't really say anything other than the fact that the mat is sacred, kind of playing up their Imperium gimmick, and that was it. So, yeah, it's fine Gunther wasn't on the show. You can't have everyone on the show every single week, and I like that. You got to factor people in and out. So that was fine. We had the Intercontinental Championship defended, Ricochet against Jinder Mahal. Like I said, so I dipped after the Drew and Sami match, so I wasn't around when this match happened. I had to catch up after the fact when I got home at like 2:30 and like 2 o'clock in the morning last night. And I only watched it as it aired or not as it aired, but after the fact last night before I went to bed, because I feared from something that I heard on Twitter that Jinder may have won the championship. And as some of you may know, I own a replica Intercontinental Championship that I am trying to get signed by every former living Intercontinental Champion. If Drew won here, listen, I've met Drew, he's a nice guy. I do not want Jinder Mahal's signature on my fucking title. I'm sorry. Ricochet's reign has been as uninspiring as it gets, but at least he is better in that role than Jinder. So thank God they did not switch the championship. There really was no rhyme or reason for why Jinder got a title shot in the first place. He literally just asked Adam Pearce, and that's how we got a fucking title shot. So they'll take weeks to confirm a unification match, but it takes all of 2 seconds for them to confirm Ricochet and Jinder for the Intercontinental Championship on the following week's show. Doesn't make any sense. This was fine. It was short. It was sweet. It was over within a matter of minutes. That is about the best thing I can say about it. It wasn't a bad match, but Ricochet has been such an afterthought as champion, and Jinder is just Jinder Mahal. So I really could not bring myself to care about this, but at least Ricochet retained, and that's the best thing I can say about it. The main event, Riddle against Jimmy Uso. Nothing on the line. Not exactly a main event worthy match, but hey, it was well wrestled. It was fun down the stretch. It was nicely paced, and the crowd was into the action. So if nothing else, there was that. Riddle won with an RKO out of nowhere, which he's slowly but surely starting to perfect, which is great, taking after his tag team partner Randy Orton, and he picked up the win. So it was as simple as that to close out the show. Nothing overly remarkable, nothing overly memorable, just a good match to send the crowd home happy. So that was about it. Kind of closing SmackDown on, I don't want to say an underwhelming note because it was a good match, but there really was nothing worth writing home about this show. The only thing really worth noting after last week's semi-newsworthy show is the fact that Drew Gulak is back and he's a broadcaster. That's really about it. Ricochet and Jinder was not a waste of time, but really nothing that you're going to remember 2 days from now. Drew and Sami was just filler ahead of their match next week. Charlotte and Gulak was fine. Moss and Berto was fine. The best thing about the entire show, I enjoyed the main event for what it was, but the best part about the whole show was Ripley and Naomi. That was really about it. So feel free, per usual, to skip SmackDown this week. We were back to the norm for the Blue brand. Nothing really out of the ordinary about this episode. So if you missed the show, you did not miss much. And those are my thoughts on the April 15th, 2022 edition of SmackDown. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And as always, we'll be back next Saturday with another SmackDown audio review. I'll likely be putting up my Talking Smack review in a little while. If it's not already up by the time this video goes up, they'll be up around the same time. That's because I have a lot of content still to put up here on the channel from WrestleMania weekend, and I might as well just do that, some of it tomorrow on Easter, I know, but it'll be up on the show, or it'll be up here on the channel, on the Wrestle Rant channel, at some point on Tuesday, whether it be the Cody Rhodes media scrum or other media scrums that I went to, or just interviews and other content, I'll likely put some of that stuff up tomorrow. I was at a Fozzy concert where he played Judas last week. I have some videos from that. If they don't get taken down, if they don't get flagged for copyright shit, I don't know. But I might put those up tomorrow too. So keep an eye out for that other content. Talking Smack review, usually up on Sundays, coming to you early. Probably today instead. So have a great rest of your weekend, folks. Enjoy Easter if you celebrate. If not, have a great Sunday. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.